demand for transportation. And also, and this has already been stressed by the other speaker, I see that nowadays the traffic management or mobility managements become more and more complex because we have higher challenges and also much more mobility options. And usually, I mean, let's say 20, 30 years ago, public operators were in power to really shape what the mobility supplies can be at the city level. But nowadays we see a new kind of stakeholders, mainly private companies that come and then that can through the night just pop up with the new mobility services like two-wheelers, bike-sharing system inside the city without even really informing the city or public authority that this will happen. And the question, if we think about mobility management, is how we can make all these options and services cooperate instead of competing, which is, to my best understanding now, we see more competition than cooperation, and we definitely need to find solutions to enforce and to foster cooperation between the services to achieve what has already been said about the social goal we need to meet when we speak about mobility.
Okay, thank you very much for the elaborations. And while we're discussing the topic, I would like to, for now, to launch the first question to the public, to our audience, the first poll question we have. So, what for you are the key words that define the traffic management of the future? So if you can really put these keywords in the chat function as much as you want, that can also really initiate nice discussions for us and elaborate together. And of course, if you have any question to our speakers, please put it into the chat function. And while our audience is replying to this poll question, which will now state on the screen, I would like to ask the speakers. So how do you think the trends that you have now described, how they will actually really impact traffic management workforce? Which professions are the most affected? Are there any jobs which are at the risk of decline, for example? Anyone?
Oh, yeah. I was wondering whether I should put it in the chat or just reply to you. No, I see there are definitely jobs that are probably going to disappear or at least be less of. Anything that can be automated will probably be automated. So a lot of the more easier things to do that would previously be something that was being done by hand will probably be performed data-driven in the future. And we already see that in practice in our traffic management center. Some of the things that we would do by hand in the past, we are now doing data-driven. So this trend will probably continue anyway.
But can you give some maybe more concrete examples, indeed what you already observe in your traffic management department?
When we detect congestion on certain roads, we automatically change how our traffic lights behave. If we see a certain amount of people in location where it's getting overcrowded, this is no longer someone who is monitoring a system, but there's just an SMS going to the person who needs to take action. So a lot of the monitoring and viewing that would previously be done by monitoring and looking at cameras or this type of job will probably decrease in favor of a more data-driven workforce.
Joseph, Maria, and Ludovic, would you like to add something? Do you see any declining jobs in traffic management domain?
I mean, not a decline, but maybe a shift, especially if, I mean, so of course there is all the monitoring, but there is also all the people that basically do forecasting or that do simulation or that do what is usually called transportation studies. I think that's here. I mean, the skill that were needed in the past will change also because of data-driven approaches, but also because, I mean, it will not be sufficient just to address where the bottlenecks are and how you can just try to tune traffic control. You will always have to think mobility as an holistic problem, and to really shape your mobility decision based also on what you decide in terms of public space usage and everything. So my feeling is that we will have to work in a more holistic and more multidisciplinary team to address the mobility question. So I see a shift in the silo we usually have with people doing transportation, people doing urban planning, and people doing other things in a more integrated approaches, which will require new skill in terms of project management, but also in terms of expertise.
So that's actually a really interesting view. So we are not even speaking about one individual type of a job function, but it's really more about advanced cooperation and more talking to each other within organization. So it's maybe even more organizational change than the individual job profile change. Would that be a correct vision? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but it's also will require change in the skill people have, because it will be a different kind of expertise with the capability to basically discuss and understand what are the issue coming from other fields.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, skills we'll just discuss in a minute. And then another question, but do you see already any jobs which might appear, which are not on the market yet? Like
catching up with the previous discussion, Nina, I agree with Vincent a little bit. Indeed, many manual and massive produced jobs will be shifted to automatic. We still will need people to supervise that everything is working, not only in real time, but offline, check that the algorithms are working well, to help them in the learning side. I agree that if today or a few years ago we were having silos, so the traffic management was working with the traffic light, the public transport was working with the budget, maybe they had a priority, so they had a connection, but it was very, very small. In the future, we need to see this collaboration, and I am going back to Vincent talk about the public realm. Cities, it's becoming more difficult for cities to manage public realm. Public space, okay. Because indeed we have the electric scooters, the bike sharing stations, the garbage infrastructure, we have the shop, we have the restaurants. So they need to manage all these people demanding their part of the public space. And indeed, as Ludovic said, we need this collaboration. And I think that we can see the new companies that came up from one day to another, that they are putting a lot of emphasis on the travel experience, and the mobility experience. They are doing marketing. Mm-hmm. So in the e-scooters market, a sector domain, one important aspect is the marketing. If the app is nice, if the user likes the app, if they can give offers to the user, if they can send ads to the user, we have seen taxi companies being removed by ride sharing or new taxis companies because they had an appealing app. So a strong market protected like the taxi one has been changed because they needed to adapt to the new dispatching centers, which it can be just 3 IT guys with an app putting in contact the drivers with the customers. Mm-hmm. So and then I think that somehow we will shift to satisfy the need of the people to do a fancy use of mobility. So we will need more, not marketing, I don't like the word marketing, but like kind of marketing to attract them to use their mode. Many people are using the scooters not to move because they like to do it. I like to unlock the scooter. I like to unlock the car sharing next to my house, and I will not walk. I will use the car sharing service because I like to do it. So I think we will see this change. We are seeing in many domains, many sectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting view. And I think it's also kind of what all of you mentioned one way or another, but are we like really running in the sense a trend of shifting the traffic management from a public function to private function, like this traffic management as a service? And would that in any case really impact the workforce we are talking about, type of actors we see on the market?
If I may, I mean, there is something we didn't discuss yet, but which may look obvious, which is the question of drivers. I mean, professional drivers, because I mean, if we go for automation, it's sure that a lot of driver will disappear. But my feeling about this is that if you consider urban environments and you now considers what we need in terms of space sharing, the fact that we need to put more and more bike and more diverse kind of vehicles in the public space. My feeling is that we will not see autonomous, large autonomous fleet of vehicles in cities in the next decade, and even more, because it's too complex. I mean, having one vehicle running in a city environment, it's okay. I mean, the main tech company can do that. But having 100 vehicles, autonomous vehicles acting at the same time in the urban environments, we will see it creates many messes that it will be very hard to address. So my feeling is that we will still, I mean, we will see automation in, for example, in public transportation for mainline, because this is easy. You can have protected space and it's easy to run. But more generally, I see that for all other mobility services like taxi, Uber, or this kind of stuff, we will see driver for a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really good. But then again, bringing to the question asked, do we see any new jobs being created? Do you have any disruptive ideas? Of course, we'll later discuss it in personas, but are there any evident also ideas on this question you have? Okay, maybe then let's come to this after we discuss the skills. And I also see, thank you very much for the audience, really nice words coming up in the chat, defining traffic management of the future, like multimodality, complexification, big data, standardization, digitalization, urban planning. So indeed, a lot of tech-driven words. So now, yeah.
If I may, just that if we want to define a new job, I think it will be some kind of community manager. So someone communicating to the people and with what the people need. They want to be communicated. They want the company to care about them. Something that public transport was not doing until now, because there was not the need. They were not competing with anything else. So some kind of more direct connection to the travelers,
mm-hmm.
to the users is something that I think we will need in mobility management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really nice view. And then going to the skills, how do you think then, which kind of skills are actually being affected by what we have discussed, and which are changing, and are there any skills that are emerging or we need to have on the market? So now again, I would like to invite Josep Maria to start elaborating on your statement.
Okay, from my personal view, this has already happened. It's not that it will happen, but it has already happened. Data science. It was I don't know if it was created, but it was named a few years ago. But sometimes we recycle some old jobs and put fancy names. But data science, we have seen it happening. Data science, it means someone knowing mathematics and statistics, knowing programming skills, but they should also know the domain, because if not, it can be some kind of dangerous. Programming skills, IT people, computer science is also key. But again, this is today. This is not the future. And ourselves, we are trying to find these people, and they are few. So we are fighting for good programmers and good data scientists. So I expect in the future, as today we see in our CVs, I know Office, I know Word, Excel, that we will say, I know 2-3 programming languages, and I know data science. So I hope in the future, these two will be standard in our CVs, as today we have this thematic office skills. So everyone should know at least some kind of programming skill, a programming language. It's important, especially for engineers. If you rely in others programming what you think everything will go very slow and there will be many problems. So it's good if a transport engineer can program himself. I am from the MATLAB era. Before MATLAB, I know they were Fortran, and today is Python, R. So this is evolving. But in your time, you should learn the language that is being used. Of course, Python today is one of the most well-known languages, because this will give you a lot of capabilities to work independently, to develop your thoughts, and to give something ready to the IT team. You can take the code and use it without you being a programmer. On the same time, open source. I can see new people coming and learning very fast and building very fast something because they can find an open source. They can go to GitHub to take the code. So this is also important, that these programming skills, sometimes they do not need to be very deep, but to have at least the capability to integrate different ready source codes and sources to build something that it works. Online training, we have a lot of capabilities to do online training. People is learning by themselves many things. Again, we should be careful that we are trusting to do this, but YouTube is a channel where you can learn many things on your own, and people is getting used to it. It's not good that they say that we don't need to go to school because we have YouTube. I do not agree. But for specific skills, you can go to YouTube, you can have a tutorial, you can go to open online training. Some of them are even free. So this helps people to learn fast what they need at every moment. And then going to the transport modelers, I think that we need a lot of changes there. It's not that they will disappear. We will need always to model transport because we are working with the scenarios. What would happen if we do this, we do the other thing? But these models are becoming more difficult with the new modes that we are not used to having to them, on demand, shared mobility. So these people should also be more data science and IT skills. So in the past, they were used to learn the program. Could be Amsterdam, could be Disruptive, just the program with the user interface. A few of them were able to work with APIs to do something extra, but I think in the future this will be key. And finally, we should see other domains. We have been seeing this business intelligence, which was applied maybe on the finance sector, that is being applied to all the sectors. We have all these dashboards that are very interesting and very useful. But they are based on other domains knowledge, for example, business intelligence from the economic sector. So it is important as well to have these skills and to explore them.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I will invite Vincent to also add on what Josep Maria told, because I think you also provided another view additionally on the type of skills we need to see in traffic management professionals?
Well, basically, Joseph has already said most of what was said here. But to reiterate, of course, we need a lot of IT-related skills in the domain of business intelligence, in the domain of programming, but also just being better able to work data-driven, being able to interpret data and being able to work with data, being able to take a problem or a goal and being able to turn that into things that you can measure because in the past, a lot of things were basically just done on a hunch and basically just done by expert judgment. Whereas in the future, I see a lot of things just being much more data-driven and evidence-based. But what is evidence, and how can you go from data towards decisions? How can you go towards KPIs? And it seems easy, just measure, but what do you measure? How do you measure? Those kinds of things will be very, very important, and those are the things that we are already experiencing as well, that are creating difficulties for us. Another thing, the mobility space and the public space is basically a whole. And what I see is a discourse between the cities and the users of the public space. And this discourse should be a cohesive whole, or at least we should know what the others are communicating towards these users. And that's why I say we need a lot more relationship management, stakeholder management, lobbying, and just being able to understand each other. So communications and working with all these new partners internally and externally will be key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw in your elaborated statement, you really were speaking about lobbying skills, and I was really triggered for it for traffic management. So literally, why lobbying skills would be important for traffic management. So interesting.
Oh, let me elaborate. You see organizations that are connecting to a lot of people, businesses, apps, and such. They are lobbying, but the public space should lobby as well, because one of the things we are doing is we are creating conditions for the use of our public space, also for these businesses. But as Amsterdam, we cannot do this alone. That would just, in the long run, for now, it's something we can get away with. But for creating legislation and for creating law and creating tools that are helpful to us as cities, we need to be able to really explain what we need and why and how we can get these societal goals. And that's why what I mean with lobbying. We need to be in touch with all these partners that are doing their mobility as a service and their ride-sharing applications and whatnot. But also we need to take care that our public space is not abused and just goes to the highest bidder, because that's not what societal goals should be. So that's why I mean we should, as dividers of the public space, because that's a lot of what mobility management is. We should be really aware what's going on there, and we should be able to interface with the businesses, but also with the lawmakers.
Oh, interesting. And Ludovic, would you agree on this lobbying part? And I would also invite you to add on your statement.
Yeah, I mean, maybe let me start by reflecting on what just has been said. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, with Vincent about the fact that cities, in the end, are the divider of the public space, and this is a strong power they have. And they are not, for now, they are not using it that much. I mean, in a sense that they are not taking this issue as a global problem. And with, I mean, they want to do it. I mean, they know that this is finally their main power on mobility, but they are not doing it in a way that would be indeed something that would help to achieve social goals. So there, I mean, let me clarify. I mean, they are doing something. For example, when they increase the bike lane, when they increase the space for a more virtuous kind of transportation, they are doing this. But I think that with now the science we have, with the data we get, with all what we can do with the technology, it could be possible to go much further there by doing a kind of dynamic space sharing, by really trying to adjust the space to the needs with a complete view of what's where we want to drive the transportation system. And for that, I mean, in terms of skill, we will need people able to basically frame the optimization of the system in a way that will meet our social goal. And this requires kind of again, an holistic set of skills that can really make it possible to translate how we can frame our social goal into, I mean, quantitative criteria that we can monitor and integrate in any kind of mobility management system. So this was my reflection. Let me just read what I told you. Oh yes, the second point is for me very important, and it's also related to what Josep said about community management. I think that we more and more, I mean, if we want to meet our goal in terms of climate changes, we need to see change in user behaviors. And users are quite conservative. I mean, some people love cars, some people love their own habits and own basically optimization. And we will not make it if we let just people react to the new mobility services without making a push in the right direction. And the question how we can push users to be in somehow more virtuous in their mobility behaviors is a real question. So you can take the hard way with pricing, with regulation. You can take the soft way with incentive, with more communication, whatever. But at one point, I mean, we definitely need to create a kind of business where we will focus on how we can really shift users to the mobility options that are more virtuous in terms of environmental goals. And this will require a new job and also a new vision of the mobility, not like a set of different services that are offered to people, but a kind of global offer that we need to share and we need to optimize collectively.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, if I may add to what Ludovic said, we need to move away from just seeing mobility as a goal, but also as a means of well-being, because that's basically what I think we should be striving towards. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. Yeah, that's a really good statement. And indeed, I think you also need another mindset to run this transition. So, and now to round up the skills question, we would like to ask another poll question. And the World Economic Forum says that these are the most important skills for the future workforce. So I would really invite our audience just to put a number in the chat. How do you think, which are the most important skills for traffic management? So put just the number in the chat. And maybe each of you, Josep Maria, Ludovic, Vincent, you can also say your number. How do you think where we are for the traffic management?
I would say most of them. I cannot select only one.
You have two. You can select two, okay?
Okay.
All, but just prioritizing. And I would also invite audience to put your numbers in the chat, because it's really nice to see the common opinion on it. So who want to give a try? Ludovic?
I can, but I agree with Joseph that basically all of them are useful. But if I can pick two, I would say problem solving, the number 3 first, and creativity.
Okay, interesting. Vincent?
Yeah, I would say I would agree, but I would probably just to be different, say analytical thinking and creativity, because I think creativity is one of the major things that we haven't had enough of in this space, because it's always so it was always so much defined as just flows, and we need new ways of thinking how to tackle these global issues.
Okay. Joseph Maria, now you have to choose two.
Okay, I will. Of course, it depends on the role you think within traffic management. I will agree in creativity that in the first read, I thought this is the most strange, but indeed, I want people to think out of the box. So even if creativity, maybe if you put this poll into 100 people, 1,000 people, creativity will not be the first one. I think it's important because creativity it will be the pure innovation. All the others will support the execution of an idea, but you need this idea. So I will agree in creativity. All the others are needed in the different parts of traffic management. We need people to work to solve the problem, building the traffic management algorithms, strategies. We need technology skills, people to put the hardware. But I think the one orchestrating everything should have creativity and leadership. And then he can manage, drive the different skills of the team. But the one orchestrating could be this one, this two.
But that's actually a very interesting outcome of this exercise, because we were discussing all the data sciences programming just a second before. And now if I look at the chart, and I would still encourage our audience to answer more and just shoot the numbers, right? We have 1, 3, and 5 leading. So analytical thinking, problem solving, and creativity, which are actually leading the reshaping the thing. And we have also a question from a chat: is creativity becoming then more important in the future than now, because machines cannot replace it? How do you think?
Exactly. I think that most of the other skills, it can be done by a machine. The machine can learn, the machine can solve problems if you teach it to do it. The machine, it's part of the technology, but the machine is not still, they cannot create. We are creating the machines. So yeah.
Okay, good. And now, so coming to the third question of our discussion, because also time is running up. So filling the gaps. So what gaps are these changes causing in current competences and skills? Do you already experience it at your organizations, for example? So I would also now ask our first speaker to reflect on his statement. Yes, and it's again you, Joseph Maria.
It's good that I'm the first one because
it's easiest one, huh? Yes, I know.
I can say anything, and then Vicente and Ludovic should try to adapt to what I already said. But
apologies for the speakers. But maybe you can also add on to this. Indeed, do you really experience the lack? You already mentioned it, the lack of these professionals right now.
Yeah, what I have seen in the last years is that I will say an intrusion, without willing to have the negative side of the IT world everywhere. Because having the skills of IT skills, they have been able for the last years to do everything, to do health projects, mobility projects, energy projects, because they had the skills to build a system, to build a dashboard, to collect the data, to analyze the data. So I think that the non-IT core companies, we are Transport Institute. On my side, I have the IT Institute. So our core is not IT, it's transport, but we need half of the people to be IT. So this is our gap. We need much more IT people than in the past. Data scientists are somehow covering this side, but still we need pure IT people to build our systems. But at the same time, an IT guy without a domain background, it's not the same. So they can build any system in any domain, but they need someone from the domain to tell them what is the vocabulary, what are the problems, what is the state of the art, what do we do until today. So I believe in multidisciplinary teams working. In the past, in transport, we had some mathematics, some statisticians doing this, but today we need much more high core IT people, data scientists, even psychologists. So we need really a multidisciplinary team. So the gaps, I think, it's more on a team side than on a personal level.
Personal, okay. And now let's go to the Vincent statement. So how we can cover these gaps? What would be your approach?
Yeah, like Joseph said, we need to invest in more IT related skills, but also creating these multidisciplinary teams where people look outside of their basic profession and see how to connect with others in the same domain. My statement here really just emphasizes that in most teams, you will need at least a few who are trained in working with data and how to read all this data, how to display this data and explain this data to your colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And what your question was, how do we get there? Or
yeah, so basically that question also to all three of you, and maybe we can already also visualize Ludovic's statement just to reflect all together. So you're all mentioning we need these IT skills, but you need them now. Do you get them now already, right? And if
no,
not,
definitely
what
not.
do you do? Yeah.
Well, what we're doing is actually we're training our own people, and we're looking towards working with other parts of the government in order to get this data. We're also I see a lot of other organizations pooling their resources in order to get more done. But basically what we think is that we need to educate and train our own workforce in order to get there.
So it's really on-job training, training by doing, yeah?
Yeah. And just basically showing not just on the job, but really taking the time to not just sit next to me and watch what I do, but also just taking the time to really educate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ludovic, do you have something to add to this discussion?
Yes, of course. I'm just wondering what was my statement earlier. Okay, great. I mean, first of all, I would like to reflect. I mean, I'm working in a university, so our main work is obviously to shape what is going to be the workforce in the future. So we are currently in our curriculum trying basically to implement all the skill and new expertise that we have discussed. And especially if you look at how the curriculum in transportation has evolved in the last 5 or 10 years, now we are much more stressed on machine learning, on data, on everything that you can do through computers, computing, etc. But also we try also to work on modeling, because modeling, and especially if you look at complex systems, is really a skill that can help you to address issues in a kind of global manner. And we try to, through student project, all this kind of stuff, to try to mix expertise and make them work all together to really see how they can combine their expertise to address global challenges. So this is really the direction we are currently taking and try to face what are the needs for the job market in general. I think which is something which is difficult. I mean, we need really to enforce cooperation because for now, transportation is really a kind of nuclear system where a lot of people have power to do things. I mean, you have the users that obviously by their shows has a power to do something, but you have so many kind of organization, especially in France. I mean, if you look at how the competencies are distributed among the public authorities, among the private sectors, and everyone that can in the end have an effect in the system. I always take this example. If you look at the parking, I mean, parking looks to be a very side problem of transportation, but it's not. And if you have private operators that have basically the liberty to implement its own parking strategy, it can completely harm what you are trying to do. On the other hand, with a lot of public investments to improve public transportation. So, I mean, all these components need to connect, and this is certainly what is the most difficult and the harder to meet just by trying to train people.
I really recognize what you are saying from a perspective of also like my position within the university, indeed, like, and also University of Applied Sciences. And I'm coming from Academy of Built Environment and Logistics, when we really have logistics, built environment and mobility being taught, and we non-stop try to combine these different streams together, that the students have one vision on the urban space, that it's really not about competition, but it's about looking for the compromises for the urban space from the perspective of different users. So indeed, I think that's the future of, I would say, education in this sense. But at the same time, in the previous exercise, we saw that creativity, problem solving, and analytical thinking are really coming forward. So next to these hardcore technical skills, we also need to boost this. That's not a soft skills, I would say, but also more like, innovation type of skills. So how would you see this being developed in people, you know? And especially if we're speaking about current professionals who are already employed in organizations.
Again, but if I speak about students and especially master students, I think the shift we have is that, and especially in France, 10 or 20 years ago, we have a kind of vertical idea of teaching. I mean, the professor have knowledge that they have to pass to the students. Nowadays, we try more and more to let them basically develop their own solution based on what they can get from the literature or from the state of the art, but by looking for themselves, what is the state of the art? And I think that's putting students in situation when they have to solve problem without any prior knowledge of how they can do it can definitely foster creativity. And also, what we try to do also is to try to push them to participate in challenges that are organized at more national or international levels, because having teams that work together to meet, I don't know, challenging for building of vehicles or providing new solution for mobility or whatever it can be, it really helps them to basically meet other teams, to connect with other way of thinking. And I think this is very productive to have this kind of outside the university and even international experience, because this also fosters creativity.
Okay, good. Vincent or Joseph Marie, do you have something to add on it, or we just go to our job profiles that we also, the exercise we asked you to run just prior to this webinar?
Now let's go to the job profiles. I'm really interested in seeing what Ludovic and Joseph came up.
But to start with, we also actually looked at today. So the most common traffic management role that you really see in job advertisements, it's really like traffic manager, traffic safety and control officer, right? Like traffic technician or engineer, traffic modeler, transport planner, this kind of jobs. And as an example, for example, in the traffic management planning function already, it's required proficient use of PC, communication and collaboration skill, but also like more and more this agile way of working. And now if we go to our personas, so based on your inputs, we have elaborated 6 personas, and to start with a really like a hardcore traffic management types. So we see here new style traffic manager and engineer, who would be actually classical traffic scientists, but with additional knowledge and skills around like new actors in the market, new modalities, tools, but also societal goals. So she or he has a deep understanding of how a data-driven mobility ecosystem works and how these new tools, they really work together and they're being deployed together. And as most systems operate real time, without human supervision, based on rich data feed, new style traffic manager engineer, really his main function is actually to ensure that this system performs as expected by running these regular benchmarks and pushing the new version of the traffic management software. So that's one of the key person of the team. Another is data scientist, and that's mainly a person who is analyzing these multiple data sets and making use of AI to extract patterns and predictions, has really a strong data skills to orchestrate all the system. And finally, a traffic data manager, so a person who is responsible for data collection, gathering from all these heterogeneous data sources, and also ensuring correspondence to this open data requirements and dealing with all privacy issues. So these are technical people, but next to it, there's 3 other profiles that we saw appearing in your like homework, and they are explained on the next slide. And this is really a mobility communication and interaction manager. So a person responsible for a current discourse with users of the public space. So what we several times discussed today, so something like a community manager function. This person has a deep understanding and really have persuasive techniques and to talk to people, to talk to citizens, and really ranges co-creation range of tools. Then we also have a mobility advisor. So she or he, a person who is in charge of communicating through different channels, all regulations and mobility services that are available to people. So this person makes sure that people participate to the climate change objectives by monitoring their own contribution to the collective objectives. And finally, also very interesting role like a crowd management manager. So a person who is responsible for crowd safety and flow of pedestrians in a city. So this person uses predictions and dashboards to decide where to place stewards and works with the head influence on local businesses to reduce peak intensities. And of course, additionally, this person can help contribute working on the venues of optimal flow. So before you reflect on this new composition of the old composition of traffic management roles, I would also like to ask a question to the audience. How do you think, are we missing any disruptive traffic management profiles here? So please put in a chat if you think there's any additional roles, maybe related to ethics or related to privacy that we should see in the traffic management thing. And I would like to invite our speakers to reflect on what you saw. Is the picture complete? So that's how the traffic management center of the future would look alike, in your opinion.
Well, I don't think it's complete, but these are just some of the new roles that you might see. But I probably think, well, depending on how certain disruptive technologies will develop, you will probably need someone who works really hard at maps. All these new vehicles, they need an up-to-date map in order to get to their destinations. Say you have one road going in and out of an area, just one, and the road out of the area is taken away, and you only have the road going in, which goes in two directions now. If the map inside of the autonomous vehicle is not changed, this vehicle will be inside the area, will never be able to leave because it doesn't know how. So all these new types of information will probably be needed in the future, but depending on how fast and how disruptive all these technologies will be, maybe we will see urban air, and you will need drone management. So yeah, it all depends on how fast and how much change you will see.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with Vincent that definitely it's not the full picture. Is basically some snapshot about what would be needed. I just want to reflect on one of the job that has been mentioned on the previous slide, which is about because we speak a lot about basically data processing, but data collection in mobility is really hard job because data are sparse. They are owned by multiple kind of actors, and having people that have as a job to gather these heterogeneous data sources from multiple providers ensures that these data are open and also meet all the privacy issues is for me something which is crucial, because this is, if you want to optimize something, you need to understand it and to predict what is the needs. And without this strong effort in data collection, but also in data homogenization, standardization, and we will not face. I mean, this is basically a core component of many other jobs that are needed.
I will agree, Nina. This is not the whole team, but I think this sub-team can make a difference to any existing traffic management, because we some of the skills that we see in this team are missing today. So of course we need much more people. We need the traditional people doing the technicians with the hardware, with the sensors. But these people can make a difference in the future.
Okay. And you're like really professionals on the field, so it's your daily environment, the traffic management. Do you actually see any trends in the male-female distribution of the function? So if we look at the structure of the workforce by maybe age or by gender, is there any differences there or any changes that we are observing there?
I mean, this is a hard question. It shouldn't be any gender imbalance when you look at the job description, but we know there is, and we know it's come from first the involvement of women in science, which is very important. So I would say that I don't see that there is a specific issue in transportation. I see that there is a more broader issue in how we can ensure that we have a proper gender balance in all the different job activities and all the job activities that are related to science. And that would be my answer. We definitely need to promote science, and especially, I mean, in general, because we see also a lack in general of vocation to science nowadays, but also to be sure that we have a kind of really gender-free approach of the way we teach, the way we promote job, and the way we handle anything related to science.
No, I think it's a really good statement, but just I wanted to ask you, what do you see in practice? Do you really see the shift? I know a lot of efforts really put, and we have also a very nice question in chat. How do you think? Whose responsibility is it to create this gender balance? Is it from universities, cities, private operators?
Nina, I can say from my experience that unfortunately, the people working in these issues we have mentioned are mainly men. And it's something that myself or we cannot change today. Something that, as Ludovic said, we need to change from much more earlier. than when hiring people. We need to have a more gender balance on the interest of people in going into engineering fields, into science, into computer science, especially. I can see on the other institute, I can see many females, but still the percentage is not 50-50, but I can see many females in the last year. So still something is changing, but I think we still need a long way for a 50-50, if we want a 50-50.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. And we actually do try, but when you put out a job and 19 out of 20 people replying are male, it's pretty difficult to hire females. It's just, but we really try though. But yeah, and in response to the question, I think it's all of the parties that were put there. Yeah, I think it's all of our responsibility to create a work environment that's friendly to both males and females. But yeah.
And in relation actually about the educational levels, all the trends that we have discussed now, right? And also, skills and like future job profiles. How do you think, like, which educational, like, graduates from which educational levels might be affected the most by these changes? So do we require much more high skilled, or are we displacing much more lower skilled people in this transition? So what do you observe also?
Yeah, I personally think we will see more higher skilled and less lower skilled in general, because the lower skilled jobs are more easy to automate most of the time, and most of the data scientists or traffic data managers, they are obviously higher educated. So yeah, that.
Okay, and we still also have a question in chat related to the gender issues. As there are proportionally more women in communication studies, would that mean that the emergence of more communication-related jobs in transport management would push for more women in transport management jobs?
Yeah, I mean, just to reflect really my own opinion on this one. I'm a father of 3 girls. And I really think that we should not let basically communication study to women and engineering study to men. I mean, we definitely need to be sure that we have more men in communication, because they may have some things to bring there, but also more women in engineering and in science. And this is really, I mean, and for that, I mean, education has a strong role to play, because we really need to have certainly a more gender-free approach of the way we teach the science, because it's surprising that we have 50-50 people at the beginning, and that's usually women are very good at in learning at school, but in the end they are not going to some field of the science, like computer science, like engineering, while they can definitely, when they go, they can. We know that they are very successful. So we need to work on this and be sure that we frame this discipline in a way that can attract also women. I mean, if you look at biology, for example, there is a much higher rate of women, and it's science. So I feel that in transportation, the fact that now we have all these climate change issues, the fact that we need to have these holistic approaches, that we need to work more in a team way, we definitely need to really advertise this, and also be sure that we take benefit of all the skill and competencies of everyone. So of course you have the gender balance, but you have many kind of balance you can want to achieve in a team, and this is definitely one thing that should be at the top of our priority as as education, but also, I mean, we need also help in at the end of, from the people that do the job offering, just to be sure that we work together to work on this balance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's basically the structure of the workforce in traffic management. And I think just before we started this conversation, Vincent, you also shared a very nice view on the difference between large cities and big cities and the traffic management for those. So can you maybe also share it with the public, how much this is relevant for the workforce or not at all?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I said, like the new style traffic manager engineer, or someone who works in crowd management, managing huge crowds. If you work at a small village, your main problem is mostly not crowds. It's more traffic safety, and just getting your budget, and basically that. So while I do see urbanization as one of the major factors creating all these huge cities, I think for the smaller cities, it will be even more difficult to keep up, because all these new skills require data scientists, and require people who are very proficient at working with data. And while your biggest issue is that in a smaller city, people are just being run over because there are just not enough signs or whatever. So this is something that'll be very different from the perspective of a Barcelona compared to some small village. Okay. And if I may add, as a major in communication sciences, I wouldn't necessarily say it would mean more jobs for women in traffic.
In traffic, okay.
But that's just a joke.
Yeah. No, but I think at our personas exercise, we really saw quite a balanced type of positions being offered. So yeah, it's interesting to have this chart maybe in 10 years and to see if this shift really happened, you know? So which
and one of the things we are actually seeing now is one of the instruments for traffic management is social media, Twitter, Facebook, and getting your message heard. And that's something that I think at least women are at this moment better at than men. So, but to be honest, most things women are better at it than men, if you look at the science behind it. But yeah.
Well, we see. And maybe like now we are really heading to the end of our workshop. So I will just invite you to make final statements about the topic we discussed. And if you just have some final thoughts to share with us, how we can run this transition to the new workforce in the traffic management. Ludovic, would you like to start maybe now?
Yeah, I mean, my main reflection is that somehow we are facing huge challenges, but it's also very exciting because I mean, we are part of the kind of job that will shape the future. I mean, not only the future of transportation, but the future of the next generation, because transportation is the core element of social living. So I feel that we have huge challenges, but also huge benefits to try to promote new approaches and new skill and new job as we try to focus on this during this workshop. So I mean, the way we can achieve that, I think it's really working all together. Education, private sectors, public authorities, to try to create exchange and to exchange knowledge, to exchange anything that can make sure that we all work together in the same direction. This would be my main recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Would like to continue. Josep Maria, I see you.
I would like to enlarge the word education, because it's not only school, it's not only university. We have been re-educating people. Ludovic said people like their car. you will never convince them about mobility as a service. They want their car, they will not share their car. So you need to educate these people. So education is not only about studies, it's the whole society should be educated, every age in a different way. Even Vincent said that they are re-educating the people in order to have new skills. So education is key, but it's not only something that the academy will do. Everyone should educate everyone. So it's the whole chain of governments, public authorities, and I think also the families are important. If you educate the families, then the people will grow up better oriented through climate change, sustainable mobility, because many times it is a family issue. Here in Greece, we have a lot of people, this is my car, I want to park it in front of my house. And I can see that they're educating this way the children. So education is key, but it's not only academy, it's not only universities and schools. Society should be educated.
Really like lifelong learning. Okay. Yeah. Vincent, do you have something to add?
Yes. One of the things that we haven't spoken about yet, what I think is really important, is one of the major skills that we are looking for in new people joining our teams in a traffic management department is basically stability, because we're going through changes that are major, and change is scary. And many of the institutions that we take for granted will change. Many of the ways we work in public, private will change. As we've seen, we will need multidisciplinary teams that work together in many types of skills. And also that means the scope of what you're working on will be fluid and will change, which is also scary. And the topics, climate change, inclusivity. So basically what I mean is that as a person working for a team with a permanently changing goal and a permanently changing scope, we need people who are able to find their balance, even though everything around them is changing. And that's what I mean with stability.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting vision, because indeed, like this agile way of working and flexibility is more and more demanded from the workforce, but it's also not something easily integrated in the DNA of each single person. So I think it's a really interesting point you're raising now. But unfortunately, we need to round up this discussion. And just to summarize, so really today we discussed this variety of trends and developments which push traffic management beyond the existing borders, right? And we saw that not only these high-tech developments need to be taken into account, but also climate change, socioeconomic factors, climate resilience, and these kind of things. So really a lot is going on. We change type of demands on the workforce that we have. And we really see that on the traffic, transport and engineering side, still this mathematical and statistical and computer-based simulation modeling is important, but big data skills and this advanced type of computer literacy becoming really kind of urgent to be developed in the workforce institutions need. And next to it still, we need people who can embrace this uncertainty, flexibility, communication, collaboration skills. So it's really a package of skills. And finally, we really saw that it's not only about education of young professionals, but it's really lifelong learning programs and upskillings of educational services. So mid-career job trainings may be essential. And yeah, we need this internal team approach to deal with it. And we still have 2 minutes left. So my question to the audience would really be to put, if you have any ideas of other urban planning and mobility professions that you would like to discuss in the future in these webinars. And I would like to give a word to Manon, to one of the colleagues of the POLIS, to announce the next webinar on it. Yeah. And for the audience, if you have any type of mobility area that you would like to discuss in next webinars, please put it in chat. Manon, yeah, field is yours.
Yes, just to inform you that we have a meeting just for POLIS member on the 28th of October to discuss the role of cities and regions in the transition of jobs related to the automation of transport. So feel free to join if you're a POLIS member, and if not, you can always reach out to me I'm currently drafting an article on this topic, so I'll just leave my email address in the chat. If you have any insights that you would like to share, or if you're interested in the topic, feel free to reach out and we'll work together on this topic.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we are well on time, and I really would like to thank you, our speakers, for a very interesting discussion, sharing view on such a sort of a new emerging topic in the mobility world, the workforce. And thanks for all the contributors to the common chat, and we will take on board these developments in future work. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll share the presentation with you, with everyone who joined afterwards, and a recording and a short report. Thank you again to our speakers. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, thank you.